Level 1. You are waiting at gate 22 when he sits across from you. He looks ordinary in the kind of way that makes you check again. A worn leather coat, a ticket from nowhere. He reads a folded newspaper like a ritual. The headline is Tomorrow's Scandal. You blink. He doesn't unfold it again. He looks up and smiles like he owns a clock. You want to laugh. You don't. You ask the time. He tells you the date, 3 days from now, and a name that will vanish from the headlines. The airport hums. You feel a ripple like the world just tilted. You ask how. He says 2 words. They remember. You leave with his number burned into your phone and a sense that the next steps are not optional. Level 2. You call at midnight. He answers on the first ring. He speaks in fragments, like a man carrying live wires. He says time is a corridor with doors that open in both directions. He says some people have keys. You ask who? He says those who survived getting there. You realize this man knows things you can't know. Names, market shifts, small accidents that decide empires. He offers proof. 3 small bets. You win them all. Money arrives in your bank like a promise. The taste of easy change is metallic and cold. You think about using it to change one thing about your life. He watches you like a judge. You think he wants recruits. He says no. He says lessons. Level 3. You start noticing cracks. A historical fact becomes a rumor. A photograph you've seen your whole life has an extra face now. You dismiss it. Then the first butterfly. You decide to use the man's info to stop a car crash you read about. One small warning, an amber light, a honk you make over the phone, a life saved, a new headline. You believe you did the right thing, but the saved person later causes a corporate merger. A factory closes in a town where your sister lives. The ripple reaches her mailbox. She loses hours, then days of pay. You watch a pattern form. Tiny changes, loud consequences. The man had warned you. You cannot pluck one thread without the tapestry reacting. You feel complicit. The thrill of power curdles into guilt.
Level 4. He brings you a dossier. Photos, dates, small predictions with centering points, stocks, weather anomalies, last words of famous leaders. He calls them calibrations. His group, if he has one, is obsessive. They treat time like a machine in need of fine-tuning. You learn how they move, quiet interventions, sealed letters, anonymous calls. You learn about the Watchers, an organization born out of the first mistake. It policed changes until it became the arbiter of which futures were acceptable. You see a list of historical edits, a missing ambassador, a battle that never happened, an erased company. Every edit is neat on paper. Every edit tastes like lead. You realize these people are not guardians, they are surgeons. They remove tumors by opening the body and never seeing the scar. You ask why. He says survival. He whispers the first rule: never be sentimental about the past. Level 5. The choices multiply. The man offers you an assignment, a small adjustment, he says, a failed election turned the wrong way. You imagine the lives you could fix. Your finger trembles. You think about your sister, your debts, the friend who died in an alley 3 years ago. You think of revenge as a balm. He gives you the coordinates. You travel backward in time like stepping into someone else's skin. The past smells different. Paper, oil, something metallic. You do the job. It feels clean, surgical. You come back to a world rearranged. Minor wins ripple into major losses. A new tyrant rises on the ash of the old one. The fabric of cause and effect is not a ladder you climb. It's a mosaic that rearranges its tiles when touched. You start to notice a pattern in the man's face, lines you remember from strangers you passed in different decades. You begin to suspect you are not being trained, you are being integrated. Level 6. You press him for answers. He tells you the truth in the corner of a bar 2 cities away. Time travel isn't a discovery, it's a business. Knowledge is currency. There are traders, black markets of events, brokers who auction a child's life for a corporation's future. There are factions, preservationists who try to keep timelines intact, predators who profit from chaos, archivists who record edits like sacred texts. He says most of them think of themselves as necessary, balancers in a cruel ledger. You ask where you fit. He says your hands are still clean, but not for long. Every alteration tattoos you with responsibility. You notice the ledger, names crossed out, futures redacted. You realize you can buy a place in history. You can make someone famous. You can erase a crime. You can program a war. The options scroll past like a menu of horrors. Level 7. You look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person who made those calls. You wonder if the man at the airport was lying. Maybe the papers were forged. Maybe it was a scam. You try to quit. You delete the man's number. You throw away the dossier. But knowledge is a parasite. It feeds on silence. You remember a detail you weren't meant to know, an old woman's last words from a recalibrated timeline. You cannot unhear them. You realize the real trap. Once you know tomorrow, you cannot unknow the weight of altering it. You are haunted by futures you prevented. You are haunted by futures you created. Level 8. He corners you with a final proposition, a decision he has been testing you for, a choice that will change the map of many lives. He says, make it, and you either fix a terrible wrong or you become the wound. You stand under a single lamp, the dossier heavy in your hands. Silence is loud. The man slides a photograph across the table. It is your face, older, hollowed, a scar that your present self does not yet have. He says, that is one future. Another photograph shows a city thriving because of a small, brutal intervention you could do tonight. He calls it the calculus, cost versus consequence, mercy versus control. You think of your sister, still struggling in a town you helped impoverish. You think of the child you saved, who later harbors a hunger that builds a better factory, or an army. You rise, you speak. Your voice is thin but steady. You say no to the ledger. You take the dossier and burn it in the sink of a bathroom far from the man's eyes. The flames make your hands light up with heat. You watch ash ride the air like tiny, restless ghosts. You expect relief. You feel only the echo of decisions you haven't yet made. Epilogue, the last ripple. Months later, the man appears at your door like a shadow with a smile. He is not angry. He says he knew you would try to refuse. He speaks the last lesson. Refusing is also a choice. You cannot opt out of being part of history. Every inaction is an edit. He hands you a single sealed envelope. He says, open when you are ready to see the consequence of a quiet life. You keep it, folded in a drawer with the burned pages. Sometimes you tear them open in the dead hours, just to check if the world still lines up with what you remember. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. You learn the saddest truth. Knowing tomorrow makes you dangerous, but not knowing makes you irresponsible. Either way, you are accountable. The last line the man ever says to you is not dramatic. It is simple and terrible. Everyone who knows tomorrow must live with the scale of their hands. You close the drawer. You sleep. Outside, the city breathes and shifts, a million small decisions adding up to a future no one can wholly own. You wake knowing the man at the airport was right. Tomorrow's news really can be known, and the cost of that knowledge is you.